Ah, the sequel album. Revisiting the landscape of an old friend and territory. Sometimes it works out and we get some fantastic new music by incorporating the same essence of older songs. But sometimes it doesn't quite work out by, well, kind of running out of ideas and trying to cash in on something that has already been fantastic. So, what do we have here? Well, let's dive in and find out. Return to Ommadawn by Mike Oldfield. So Mike Oldfield really doesn't need too much of an introduction. He was one of the pioneers of progressive rock within the mid 70s, at least in terms of really experimenting as a one-man show within the studio. He was skyrocketed into the popular eye with his Tubular Bells, and he's tried to recapture that a couple of times. I find for Mike Oldfield he has one of two brains. He's either that mastermind in a studio that's really experimenting with what music can be, stretching songs into the 20-minute mark, or he's just kind of a fun, accessible, almost adult contemporary artist. My favorite style of his is definitely that more experimental, and my favorite album from his has always been Ommadawn. Like, I have a special place in my heart for Tubular Bells, but it was Ommadawn that solidified my love for him. So when I found out earlier last year that he was going to return to that landscape with a return to Ommadawn, as opposed to Ommadawn 2, which I was almost expecting with Tubular Bells, because Tubular Bells has Tubular Bells 2, Tubular Bells 3, then you've got Tubular Bells 2003, you've got the Millennium Bell. He's had a lot of fun with these Tubular Bells, to varying degrees of success. On the one hand, I was excited because Ommadawn, favorite album. But I was also a little hesitant because I knew it was kind of touch and go within the Tubular Bells series. So luckily, by not calling it Ommadawn and calling it Return to Ommadawn, it gave me a little bit of sound of mind. Like, this wasn't a straight up sequel, this was more of like a return to the landscape, almost like a story of. That's really what we felt. Like, the overall essence of this album for me is just the atmosphere that we found within Ommadawn. The original Ommadawn was much more of a very concise piece. You know, I know that sounds kind of silly, being that Ommadawn was a very long stretch of music, but the thing that caught me right from the beginning is the atmosphere of the album. Ommadawn, the first one, is definitely much more of a percussive type of song, especially within the latter part of the first side. And so that same essence of that percussive, I guess, foundation is felt within this album, and it's also felt within parts 1 and 2. What I also really enjoy is the same sounds that were used, but incorporated in a different way. Unlike, say, Tubular Bells 2 or 3, where it was the same root of a note structure that he was trying to play around with, this was taking the sounds and trying them in a completely different way. And because of that, I think it works out a little bit different, because it feels like, if we're using like a metaphor of a landscape, it feels like I'm in the same world or the same land, but everything has changed since we left it from the 70s. And so really discovering and reimagining a lot of this was fantastic. I won't quite say that it is as good as the original. It is a great treat, and I did have to remove my rose-tinted glasses because of the nostalgia factor about it. Taking off the rose-tinted glasses and looking at this as a work today, it actually improved my overall enjoyment of the album, because it's still two fantastic and wonderful pieces of music, just where it goes within this landscape and the ebbs and flows. Like, the first track has some beautiful moments with the percussive aspects of it, as well as kind of the harmonics within all the singing and whatnot. The second song kind of ends on that same jaunty horse ode of the original, and so by not being as just over-the-top cheese and incorporating it here, I thought kind of worked in its advantage, and I really enjoyed that.
On horseback? To
So overall, this guy is a win for me, and one that I am glad to have picked up, and probably one of Mike Oldfield's best. Coming from The Man on the Rocks, which was a great, great feat from him, I feel like this really captured that experimental side of him very, very well, and I just enjoy every moment of it. I'd have to say you've got to pick this up in physical form if you can find it, because it is a great, great companion piece to the original. And it also kind of harkens back to Mike Oldfield's kind of original stylings within Tubular Bells, Hargest Ridge, Ommadawn for sure, as well as that longer piece from 5 Miles Out. And so I feel like this would sit very, very well with all of those guys. Not quite as masterful of Ommadawn or probably that first track of Tubular Bells, but it's still a great, great treat. And if you love this kind of music, you're going to love this as well. So that's about it. What did you guys think of Return to Ommadawn by Mike Oldfield? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Whatever you thought, let me know by commenting down below. And thank you guys so much for watching. You guys are definitely the best. And until next time, notes out.